It's 5:30. Now, Fox 35 News at 5:30.
We told you just a short while ago about Tory Breedlove. Orange County deputies found justified in their shooting of him earlier this year. A grand jury coming back with those results just about an hour ago.
You know, it was actually the third time that they had gotten together, so obviously a lot of information that they wanted to go over. Not as clear-cut as some people might think, hearing that the officers had fired 100 times into Mr. Breedlove's car. But former police chief Dr. Richard Weinblatt is joining us now with his perspective about this and whether or not it was, in fact, excessive force. What is and what is not too much for officers to use. Sir, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Nice to be back with you guys.
Always nice to have you here.
Yes, it is.
You know, it's interesting. They get together 3 times. What factors do they weigh probably the most when a grand jury is looking perhaps to return an indictment? How in fact do they determine whether something is excessive?
Well, one of the things that you have to figure out, and it's very well established in U.S. Supreme Court case precedent, a case called Graham versus Connor. You have to decide what's objectively reasonable under the totality of the circumstances. What did the officer, in this case, perceive at the time? Hindsight is 20/20, but we have to look at what did the officer perceive at the time. Did they articulate a threat of serious bodily injury or death to themselves or others?
Well, they did, and they said because he tried to ram them, and even though they had him boxed in, that's when they fired. And this is the hinger. This is the crux of it. 100 shots into his car, even though he wasn't armed. They didn't know that, but he tried to ram him with the car. That's a weapon right there. But 100 shots, isn't that, if my math is right, 15, 16, 17 deputies just emptying their weapons into the car? Isn't that at the very least dangerous for the people who are in the area?
Well, here's one of the things we have to realize is that when you're dealing in the world of semi-automatic weapons, that actually is not a lot of rounds. And when you're dealing with 9 deputies that fired, that is not a lot of rounds per deputy. Remember, they're going to keep firing as per the training and it makes sense till the threat stops. If the vehicle is still moving at them and it can still articulate that they perceive it as a threat, they're going to keep firing. What would concern me more, Bob, is if only 1 deputy fired and all the others didn't, because I'd be wondering how is it that they're all standing in the same basic vicinity, one perceived a danger and the other didn't. It actually makes me feel better, and I'm not the guy that always said that the police are always right or the sheriff's office is always right.
That there was a uniform feeling of perception of the threat right there.
Exactly. They all looked at it and they all reacted in an instant. Remember, they have to just make a decision in a split second. When we have the luxury of sitting there and kind of looking at it in the comfort of our air conditioning, they have to make that decision quickly. And they all did the same way in the same manner, 9 of them. And that actually helps them, and I think the grand jury probably saw it that way.
All right, Dr. Richard Weinblatt, we appreciate your time as always and your insight. Always good to hear from you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.